Yo, man, Louie T. Welcome to the command post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your commander-in-chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So today I want to talk about rumors. Oh, no. I want to talk about some rumors. What I want you to do first is I want you to understand what time of the year it is. Okay? It's no longer lying season. That ended once the draft got here. Okay? We've now moved into boring season, right? Which means people are looking to get you to click. So this is now clickbait season. All right? Be careful what you devote your time to. There's a lot of clickbait out there this time of the year. A lot of lists going on. A lot of people speculating, coming up with these asinine theories as to what they think could transpire. Again, they still have a job to do, even though there's no real content. So they've got to drum up some interest. So here comes this crazy cockamamie thing that we think could happen. Hey, why don't you take a look? Click. They got you. Be careful. Okay, a lot of clickbait. So I bring that up because I saw an article, the other day that said that Eric Bieniemy could be reuniting. And I've been talking about veteran running backs that are out there. And it's a slow market right now. Ezekiel Elliott is out there. Dalvin Cook is out there. Kareem Hunt is out there. And he's still got some good football left in him, does Kareem Hunt. But he won't be playing it here in Washington. But SI.com thinks, hey, don't rule it out. Same with Bleacher Report. Bleacher Report is where they got the idea for their article, because Bleacher Report put together a list of potential suitors for Kareem Hunt. And we were near the top of that list. That's actually comical to me. If I weren't in the know, it would actually be infuriating. But I do know what the situation is, and I do know it's clickbait season, so I don't worry about that, and I don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. However, understand that there are going to be a lot of articles like that, linking Washington to this player or potentially that player, or here are 5 trades that may work for Chase Young. And you've probably seen at least 2 or 3 of those articles by now. So understand that there's going to be a lot of that going on. There's no truth to, Kareem Hunt coming here to Washington. We're fine. The only way that even becomes a realistic possibility is if we have something happen to one of our top 3 backs. Then, and only then, is that even, I think, a consideration, right? But if everybody's healthy, we're fine at running back. Trust me, we're fine. I really want to talk to you about Chase Young. And I want to talk about what's real and what's not, because there's a lot out there right now. And I've been pretty much ignoring it to this point. I haven't talked about it. I even talked about it on the live stream the other night. Unless somebody brings it up, I'm kind of just bypassing it because we all know what's really good. But the noise is getting louder and louder as the days pass. We're seeing more and more teams interested or reportedly interested. I'm seeing a lot of fans on Twitter, putting together packages, trying to get to Chase Young. And a lot of articles are being written about this by different publications. So I thought it was now best to just nip it in the bud right now and tell you what's real and what's not real. Okay? So let's start with what's real. All right? And I'll give you something that's not real. And then we'll go back to something that's real. And then I'll give you something ultimately that's not real. All right. So what's real with the Chase Young rumors and this entire situation? The first thing is the interest is real in Chase Young. Don't fool yourselves. Okay. A lot of you seem to have diminished Chase Young's value in league standing to reflect that of a 5th or 6th round pick, like this guy's some type of bum. All right. And again, I don't know where this narrative comes from. Yeah, you can be disappointed in him as the number 2 overall pick and the lack of production over the last 2 years and the injury that he sustained and how long it took him to come back. All of these are valid reasons to be disappointed in Chase Young. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a normal knee injury. It was one of the most significant injuries that have happened in the NFL in a while now. He tore up his knee, literally tore his knee up in ways that I have never heard before. Injuries that don't even go together. He did to his knee. So it's a little different. And obviously the 1.5 sacks prior to the injury, that's what a lot of people hold on to. Like, he wasn't doing it before he got hurt. Touche. Like, I don't have anything to say. I don't have a rebuttal for that. But guess what? Fans of other teams aren't thinking about that year with 7 or 8 games under his belt and only a sack and a half. They remember the rookie season, how destructive he was. They remember him at Ohio State. And teams, okay, are interested in Chase Young. Not just fans, because, fans half the time don't know what the hell's going on. But these teams know exactly what's going on with Chase Young. They know he only had a sack and a half. But what they also take into consideration is that you get him in a new system, you coach him up a little bit better, and maybe that they just weren't doing it right in Washington. Everything stinks in Washington, including, their development of players. There's a bit of a perception, around the league that, yeah, no. And you look at the Steelers, and Minkah Fitzpatrick is a great example. Minkah Fitzpatrick, he was all right in Miami. Gets to Pittsburgh, and he's an all-pro type safety. All right, changes everything. You change the environment for a first-round pick with extreme talent, and you may get different results. So that's the thought process for a lot of teams around the league. But also understand that the reason the interest is so real is because Chase Young's value is in the toilet right now. Okay? Understand that. The reason that teams are interested and probably calling Washington is because with that low number of sacks that I just referred to, him coming off of an injury and not picking up the 5th-year option, the vultures are circling around like, oh, all right, this is it for him. Why don't you trade him to us? Let us get a full year of work out of him, and we can decide if we want to re-sign him or not. Clearly, you don't want him. You didn't pick up the 5th-year option. Let us take him off your hands. I got a 4th-round pick here for you. That's why the interest is there, because they see an opportunity for a depressed asset, and they are looking to take advantage of it. So the interest is real. Every team in the NFC North, with the exception of Green Bay, is interested. Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota, they're all interested. I've heard various teams, San Francisco, all kinds of names, Indianapolis, a lot of teams interested. I believe so, because Chase Young is a depressed asset right now, which leads me to what's not real. Those fans of the Commanders that say, hey, you can have him for a 1st or 2nd round pick, nobody's giving you that right now. Chase Young is not fetching you a 1st round pick. Someone might get desperate enough and offer you a 2nd. But is that really worth giving up Chase Young at this point? I'd say no. Absolutely not. It's a 1 or nothing. And nobody's giving you a 1 for Chase Young. Not a single team in the league. None of the other 31 teams are giving you a 1st-round pick for Chase Young. That's why there's interest. There's interest because teams are offering you a 3rd or a 4th. They're calling and they're just kind of sniffing around to see what the scene is. But, in their mind, I'll give you a 3rd or a 4th round. I'll give you a day 2 pick for him. I'll give you a day 3 pick for him. You're right. And fans are like, yeah, you can have him for a 1st-round pick. You're not getting a 1st-round pick. That's not where his value is right now. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. He's coming off of a major knee injury. 1.5 sacks in the last 2 years. There's no 1st-round value. There's even no 2nd-round value there, if we're being honest with one another. So again, why does that make sense to Rivera and company? What's real? Washington is listening. Okay, there's a difference between fielding offers, making phone calls, and just listening. All right? Fielding offers means, hey, we've put it out there amongst the masses that we're interested in moving this asset. Hit my line, you got my number. See if we can work something out. That's fielding calls, okay? Making calls is different because that's what the Vikings were doing with Dalvin Cook. They were calling teams and saying, hey, I got a running back here that I no longer want. And I'd love for someone to take some of this $11 million salary off of my plate. What do you have in mind? And they're hitting other people's line to actively move a guy. That's what making calls entails, which means this thing is over. I'm cutting you if I can't find somebody to take you off my hands. That's what making calls is about. Then there's listening. Listening is totally different than the first two that I just explained because I'm not really interested in moving this asset. Not really interested in moving it. But if you hit my line, I'm not going to ignore the call. I'll pick it up and I'll listen to what you're saying. But if you're not talking with some reckless abandon, like, yeah, I give you a first round pick for him, we're not doing the deal. Like, the only way a deal would get done is if you make me an offer I just simply cannot refuse. And nobody's doing that right now. Washington's listening, but they're not actively shopping Chase Young. Okay? But Washington, that's real. They're listening. They'd be stupid not to. What's not real is this notion that Rivera and company would like to move him, before the start of the season. Because you got to think about it. What makes more sense? Ron Rivera tries to move a player that could help him in a year where he absolutely has to have it, or trading him for a future asset that he may not be here to spend. What makes the most sense for Ron Rivera, Martin Mayhew, and Marty Hurney? Keep Chase Young here, even if it means that he's gone next year. But he has 8.5 sacks and a couple of crucial plays in ball games that help them win 10 or 11 games and make the playoffs. What's more important to them? Those 8.5 sacks and some crucial plays that help them, make the postseason and save their jobs? Or trading him for a future asset that they may not be here to spend anyway because they didn't get it done and they're all fired under new management? I think it's a pretty easy, conclusion to make. There's an easy inference there that you can draw. I'm not moving him. He's of more value. I liken Chase Young to that used car that you have. Yeah, you got a new car in the garage, and you'd be willing to sell your used car. You're not looking to sell it. There isn't a sign on it in the front yard that says for sale, call this number. But somebody makes you a crazy offer above Kelley Blue Book value, you'll take it, right? But that car's still worth more to you. It still gets you from point A to point B. I'm not looking to drive my new whip around the city all the time just to go to the grocery store, this, that. Nah. Keep that in the garage. I'll take this one to work. This one works fine. It's worth more money to me. You want me to give it away to you. You want me to sell it to you for a rack. This car's worth way more than $1,000 to me. You want me to say, I need at least $2,500. That gets the conversation started. You might be able to talk me down to 22. I'm not going any lower than that. You want me to sell it to you. You want me to give it to you for a rack, though. That's not happening. It's worth more to me than $1,000. That's pretty much the situation with Chase Young and Ron Rivera. He's worth more to Ron here as a player to help this upcoming season than he is a potential first-round pick next year. That he may fetch them back, if they were to trade him. Again, that value doesn't exist right now. Anyway. But then, lastly, What's not real is that a trade before the season won't happen with Chase Young, which is why I didn't bother to even, bring this stuff up or put this on you guys' doorstep before, because there was no real reason for us to discuss something that isn't going to happen. They're not trading Chase Young. Not before the season. And you see how I phrased that, right? Before the season. Because that means that a trade could happen, but it won't be until the trade deadline, if anything. And again, the only way a trade happens at the trade deadline is if we absolutely suck. And at that point, again, how does that value Ron Rivera? I mean, how does that help Ron Rivera in any way, shape, or form, trading him? They're not going to keep Ron and Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew around because they made a shrewd trade at the trade deadline to move Chase Young. They're still all fired after the season. Okay? So that doesn't really benefit you any. Okay? But if we're 7-2 at the trade deadline, they're not trading Chase Young. Okay? If he's having a really good year and you're 7-2, they're not trading him. So again, the likelihood is Chase Young won't be moved at any point this season. But, you get to the trade deadline and you're 2-7. Ron's probably already fired by then if that's the case. Maybe he's not. But, Chase is having a really good year, but they understand he's, more of an asset now than he is a guy that we're looking to re-sign. You move him at that point. If their team's desperate enough, they see the production, they see that he's back, the value is up, you move him at that point. Again, not going to help Ron and company, but at this point, him being here isn't helping you win games either. So, what difference does it make? You're fired anyway. All right, might as well do some good on the way out. So, at the end of the day, there is real, interest in Chase Young. Like, that's real. There are teams around the league that would love to add Chase Young to their football team. But understand that the value isn't there right now. And Washington isn't going to give him away. And Washington's listening. But nobody's talking reckless about giving you a first-round pick for him. So, understand the Dolphins traded Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Steelers for a first-round pick. That same first-round pick isn't being offered for Chase Young right now. Understand that. The Steelers would love to add Chase Young to their football team. The Vikings would love to add Chase Young to their football team. The Lions would love, the Bears would love, the 49ers would love to add Chase Young to their football team. They're not giving you a first-round pick to do it. And that's the difference. So there's a lot of teams that would love to add him, but they're not giving you a first-round pick for him right now. And if you're Washington, really that's the only way you're looking to move him, under any circumstances, is a 1. You get to the trade deadline, and we suck, you may consider a 2 at that point. But, again, we'll see. Because he could end up being back here. A lot of, this conversation is assuming that, Chase Young's definitely the one that's going to be gone next year. It could be Montez Sweat that's not here. Like, don't be so hasty to draw conclusions on what's ultimately going to happen with Sweat and Young this upcoming season. We have no idea what we're getting out of either of those dudes. And I've already laid out a scenario in which both of them are back next year. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. So, tell me what you think about the Chase Young situation. I think most of you feel very similar to the way I do. Nothing's happening. You're not tripping because nothing's happening. But, again, it's clickbait season. Be careful how you spend your time out there. All right? A lot of cookies and crumbs are being left with how you move on the internet. Trust me, they're aiming at you, right? They're going to start sending you random articles about the Commanders. Watch how you spend your time, all right? Watch what you're clicking on, okay? Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.
LouieTeeNetwork.